Carter.
Thank you, Mayor. And I apologize for my voice. The Mountain Cedar and I meet each time this year. We have a long history of boat docks, obviously, out at the lake, and over the years it's been basically a question of the Water Department approving applications for private shoreline owners to build boat docks, and they have been granted over the years without any real guidelines to be available for people to know in advance what can and cannot be done. So this chore has been underway now for about 2 years. There have been numerous public hearings which have been well attended by landowners on the lake shore around the lake, various neighborhood associations and the staff. And as was just indicated by Dana, the recommendations have gone through a number of iterations. What is before you this evening is the recommendation that comes to us from the Zoning Commission, and the Zoning Commission has ended up with some recommendations that I have some problems with, which I'll explain in a minute. Because I felt I was going to be proposing some changes, I asked the staff last week to send out to the neighborhood associations what I was proposing or thinking about doing. It has brought a lot of email, a lot of unhappiness from certain landowners around the lake, and you'll hear some of that tonight, I'm sure. The primary concerns, I think, are over the size of the boat docks. Two things that I think everybody needs to keep in mind is that the lake is not private property, it's public property. The lake and the lake surface and the undersurface are all there for public use. So whatever area we allow and set aside for special use by the lakeshore users is public property that will no longer be available for public use. That's not to say you can't pull up in a boat next to a dock and fish under it, but you cannot use the surface of the lake generally for unblocked boatage. So I start out with a proposition that we ought to be conservative in the amount of public property we make available for use of private landowners around the lake. That's not to say that landowners don't have a legitimate claim, and rightfully so, to have boat docks so that they can have lakeside use of their private properties which abut the lake. So I'm going to move this evening that the maximum size of the boat docks, instead of being 2,000 square feet as proposed by the Zoning Commission, be taken back down to the original 1,600 feet that staff had proposed. For example, I would point out to you that in the earlier committee meetings we have today, there was some proposal to build some new homes, some 30 of them in the Como area. And some of those are 3-bedroom homes. Even those 3-bedroom homes were less than 1,600 square feet in size. I think that 1,600 feet is certainly adequate. As Dana has indicated, the docks that are already on the lake, 96% of those already built on the lake are 1,600 feet or less in size. And some people will say tonight, well, what difference does it make? If I want to buy a more expensive, larger boat, I ought to be able to have a boat dock to handle it. Well, it does make a difference, as I've already indicated, because it takes up public space and dedicates it basically for private use. It also provides, a larger boat dock provides more of a visual blockage to neighbors who may live next door and want to see up and down the shoreline. So these two things push me to believe that we should be as conservative as we could be. If we were to adopt the 1,600 square feet this evening, we will have only a handful of existing boat docks that exceed that size, and they will be grandfathered. That is, they can be maintained at the size they are now, and they can be worked on, repaired, and so forth and so long, as the size is not increased in the future. So what that leaves us with are some landowners who own shoreline property would like to build a boat dock in the future greater than 1,600 square feet. I think we're only talking about a handful of people that are involved in that. And as Dana has pointed out, the proposal tonight is to allow for an appeal to the Board of Appeals, Residential Board of Appeals, to look at each individual circumstance with the license of that board to grant something larger than that if the circumstances seemed appropriate, given the location of the dock, the size of the shore frontage that the landowner may have, and other factors. So I think this leaves everybody protected. I'm just concerned if we start out with an ordinance that provides for a maximum size as much as 2,000 feet, then it's simply another license for the zoning board, or Board of Appeals, to go beyond that and grant something even larger. And I think once we grant this ordinance, then I think it's going to be very difficult in the future to go back the other way. So I'm simply urging, as a matter of caution, that we not go beyond 600 square feet, which I think will be adequate for the large majority of uses out there. So that's going to be my motion this evening. I'm also going to move that the shoreline frontage be measured by a factor of 10 and not by a factor of 15 to determine the size of the boat dock. I think 10 will be adequate. And here again, if that doesn't satisfy someone's uses, they can go to the Board of Adjustment on that matter, Board of Appeals. The sidewall, I think we have found, or the staff has certainly found, in investigating this area, talking to people who have built boat docks on other lakes and also those who build those docks, that a sidewall of 2 feet is certainly adequate coming down from the top plate of the sidewall to give sunlight protection. And I think it's important to keep the areas open, as Dana indicated, so we can monitor what kind of activities may be going on inside. So those are going to be my two main motions this evening, is to reduce the square footage, maximum square footage to 1,600 square feet and the sidewall to 2 feet.
Carter, let me ask you, and I have not, other than when I go across the bridge on the way going across 820 or over toward Jacksboro Highway, looked at the lake, determined what size boats are on that lake. What is the average size boat? I see a lot of fishing boats, but I don't.
Well, I can't answer that question, Mayor. I mean, I haven't done any study on that. I would basically guess, just from my personal observation, and maybe the staff can give us an answer on that they're relatively small boats. I mean, you don't see any big cruises like you might see at Possum Kingdom or at larger lakes, and because it's basically always been a small lake, and as we know now, it's a very shallow lake, and that's another matter we're trying to address, hopefully in the future with some gas money. So they're relatively small boats. But again, I come back to the idea that we just need to be on the cautious side, on the conservative side, when we're talking about allocating public property, public lake in this case, for private use, which is what it basically comes to when you let somebody build a dock on a lake. Yeah.